7 minutes past 7. Let's go back to American politics, shall we? It seems there is rarely a dull day in Washington at the moment, and today, well, it might be one of the most dramatic of all, mightn't it? Very, very dramatic.
Indeed. The former FBI chief, James Comey, who was sacked by Donald Trump last month, is going to tell a Senate committee that the president tried to influence his investigations into possible links between Russia and members of the Trump team.
We're going to talk about today's hearing in a moment. Let's just bring you up to date, remind ourselves of what has happened so far. Let's go back to January to start with. That's when the two men met for a private dinner and when President Trump reportedly asked Mr. Comey for his loyalty.
In February, the president is alleged to have asked Mr. Comey to back off his investigation into Michael Flynn, a former member of the Trump team who was sacked for lying about his links to Moscow. Then in March, Mr. Comey confirmed that his bureau was investigating possible Russian interference in the 2016 election, including any links between the Trump campaign team and the Russian government.
Which brings us to early May. And then President Trump sacked Mr. Comey without any warning. And then 10 days later, Mr. Comey agreed that he would give his version of events to the Senate Intelligence Committee, which brings us almost to today.
Last night, in another surprise twist, James Comey released his statement in advance of the hearing. Now, Graham Lanktree can tell us more about this. He's the US politics reporter for Newsweek. Good morning.
Morning.
We try to explain very carefully what's been going on because there are lots of little twists or tangents in this story. But last night, James Comey released this statement. Why?
Oftentimes, when people are giving testimony, they release statements beforehand. That was something that happened during the confirmation hearings. Sometimes it's to put on the record and clarify a sequence of events or information that they're going to talk about.
So what was surprising in this statement? Did we learn anything new?
Well, we did. There was a confirmation of New York Times stories that talked about how Trump actually asked Comey to see his way clear to letting an investigation into Michael Flynn go. He asked Comey, it seemed, and Comey said directly in his statement that he felt that the president had asked him to drop the investigation. Now, if that's true, it could be obstruction of justice, which is a crime. But what the ramifications of that are unclear right now.
So when James Comey, gives evidence, and we see it later, and apparently Donald Trump's going to be live tweeting his response to it minute by minute, which is an extraordinary situation, isn't it? What do you think we should be listening out for? What are the crucial things that we might learn today?
In Trump's comments?
No. Let's talk first about in Comey's testifying. What do you think? What are the key things that we want to know from him?
Well, we want to hear, or what he's supposed to be talking about, or has said that he's going to talk about, is how uncomfortable he felt in the positions that the president put him in. He had several conversations with him. The president actually called him on the phone in March and April and said that there was a cloud hanging over him, referring to the Russia investigation, and seemed to indicate that he would like that cloud to be removed. And he asked James Comey to go on the record publicly to talk about how Trump was not under investigation. Now, Trump made that statement in his letter firing Comey, saying that Comey had told him repeatedly that he was not under investigation. And Comey didn't actually want to go public with that because it could taint the investigation in the future.
Can you talk in terms of legality? If James Comey is giving evidence, and the president, James Comey may say something against the president, may make an implication that could put the president's legality or his behaviour in question. With the president tweeting at the same time, how does that work? How is that allowed?
Well, contrary to legal advice, Trump has said that, or people close to Trump have said that he's going to be tweeting and that he wants to push back against this.
This undermines the system, though, doesn't it? It's almost like it's almost like having a court in public when you've got a process.
Well, it's contrary to legal advice. I mean, what the president does is his decision. And so in other cases, he's gotten legal advice not to tweet. And people, like with respect to his travel ban, He's been tweeting about it all this week, and people say that that's undermining the government's case in the Supreme Court.
As a political reporter who watches American politics and shenanigans, can you believe this? I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it? Who'd have thought that we'd be in this situation with these characters, all of this playing out? I mean, it really is like real-life House of Cards, isn't it?
I think that the past 4 months have been completely unbelievable, and that it's more like a reality TV presidency.
What would be the consequences of this if it did come out and it was proven that President Trump acted unlawfully?
Well, there are implications for impeachment. It is a crime if he obstructed justice, but whether or not Congress goes ahead, there are 7 steps to impeachment, and that involves the Department of Justice launching an investigation, the House actually taking that investigation under consideration, then launching impeachment proceedings, having them vote on it, then it goes to the Senate, then the Senate runs the Senate Judiciary Committee runs a whole court case.
I think
it's really complicated.
I think what you're saying is we're going to be talking about this for some time.
Really.
Graham Lanktree, thank you so much. Just so you know, that testimony begins at 3 o'clock our time.